Hello there. I'm thrilled to have you join me today, and I cannot wait to share this recipe with you. It is mouth-watering, and when you try it, it is going to keep you craving for more, okay? It is so good. What we're going to make today is a baked ziti and cauliflower cream. I mean, say that out loud. Baked ziti and cauliflower cream makes my mouth water just talking about it. I think you're really gonna like this one. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna bake a picture perfect baked ziti pasta and then make a creamy sauce for our browned cauliflower. So it's gonna be browned slightly, which is gonna make it a delightful bite. And then that sauce is like velvet, and it's going to just cover and coat every single piece of that pasta, and also just cover this cauliflower, and it is going to be amazing. So let's go ahead and get started on this great recipe. All right, we're gonna start today. I've already preheated my oven to 375, and I put a pot on the stove with some water, and I've already turned it on because I want it to give time for that to come to a boil, which it's not boiling yet, so it gives me a little bit of time to talk to you about my wonderful Mother's Day gift. I wanted to share with you the wonderful Mother's Day gift that my husband got me. These little crocs are amazing. Look at this. It's a salt and a pepper crock, and the color matches my kitchen perfect. And I don't know if you've checked this out yet or not, but Modern Prairie, if any of you are Little House on the Prairie fans, Modern Prairie, okay, that's Melissa Gilbert's website. So this actually came from her website, and she has so many awesome items. You need to check her out. But this was my Mother's Day gift. Okay, now I had the oven preheated to 375, and my pot on the stove that already had water in it is just about ready to boil. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to let it I wanna make sure that it gets to a good rolling boil. And then I'm probably gonna add about 3 tablespoons of salt. Now I just kind of eyeball it, but if you're, a measurer, about 3 tablespoons. And that may sound like a lot to you, but remember this, you always want your pasta water to taste like the sea. So if you've been to the ocean and you get a wave splash in your face, or you go underwater and you lick your lips and you get that salty taste, that's how you want your pasta water to be. Because remember, I've always say every layer needs seasoning. And so pasta, it needs to be seasoned. You don't want your pasta to just be bland. So I've got a pretty good boil going. So I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons of salt. Now, another little tip that I wanna share with you on the salt is that, especially if you have if you have stainless cookware, you want to make sure that that water is really boiling well. Or if it's, not, then you want to give it a little stir after you add that salt. Because if the salt just sits on the bottom of that pot, then it causes like these little white spots to form on your pans. And so to prevent that, I always just wait and make sure I do have a good boil going before I add that salt in. All right, so now I have about a half a pound of the ziti pasta, and I'm gonna go ahead and add that in, and we're gonna let this just do its thing while we're working on some other stuff. Now, this dish is gonna require some extra or additional baking. So we want the pasta to be right before al dente, because if we let it cook too long on the stovetop, then when we cook it in the oven, it's gonna be mushy, and nobody wants a mushy pasta. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna let that do its thing over here, and we're gonna come back to our skillet. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, while our pasta is doing its little thing over there, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work on our cauliflower. And I left this whole for a reason, because I want you to be able to see the process. You know what? Some of you I know can do a way better job of this than me, but there may be other people that have not ever really seen this process. So I want to kind of just show you from the beginning. And also I want to point out another little tip for you. Whenever you are getting ready to do a recipe, okay, whether it's, you know, in your head, one you found, whatever, print it out, you always want to make sure, read over your recipe, make sure you have all your ingredients, and go ahead and get them ready. If you've watched me very long, you'll notice that I do that. Like, I have my stuff pretty much ready to go before I ever start my recipe. And there's actually, that is a French culinary term, mise en place. Okay, and that's just a fancy word to say, you know, put in place, get your stuff in place, get it together. But you want to do that, and you might think, why? Well, because there's been many times that I have been in halfway in a recipe that I did not read over, and I'm like, oh wow, I don't have this, I don't have that, and I couldn't finish the recipe, or I didn't have the right kind of pan, or it took 3 hours and I needed it done in 30 minutes. So it's just a little something to keep in mind. If you're not used to following recipes, it may be something that you've never thought about. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, what we're going to do with our cauliflower, like I said, there probably is a correct way to do this, but I'm just sharing with you what works for me. So you want to start with a really sharp knife, and I'm just going to take my cauliflower and I'm going to just cut it right down the middle. All right, cut it in half. And, you know, of course, we don't want all of this stuff. We're not going to use that. And so you'll see that there's the core right there, okay? And what you're going to do is you're just going to take your knife and you're going to go in and you're just going to cut that core right out, okay? Really simple. Cut that out. That's going to be part of the trash. Okay, now you've broken it up easy. Sometimes you can just crumble it by hand. You don't even have to use your knife, okay? So I'm gonna get my bowl over here because we need about 4 cups of this. So it depends on how big or small you like your cauliflower. If it won't pull apart with your fingers, then you know, you can just take your knife and you can get it in the size or that you want it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of leave mine a little bit chunky. But for me, like I said, there may be a more professional way to do this, but this works really well for me. And you know what? That's what we're going with. Hopefully that will help you out a little bit if you have not ever tackled a whole head of cauliflower. Okay, we got that side finished, and it's not going to take this whole one. We just about have our 4 cups. So we're going to take this side. Here again, we have our long core. Okay, we're just going to cut a little square, cut deep enough that you get all of it, and we're going to cut that core right off of there. Now this time, you'll see there's a little cauliflower in there. So we're just going to take that out because we don't want to lose any of our cauliflower. Get our leaves out of the way, and there we go. We just start doing the same thing. You might say, well, there's not that much left. Why don't you go ahead and throw it in there? But anytime you have a cream sauce or any kind of sauce, you don't want to do that. If you put too much, then you're not going to have enough sauce. And nobody wants to eat a dish that is dry because you don't have enough sauce. Before I move on to the next step, I'm going to give this pasta a little stir, because if you don't want it to just sit here too long doing nothing, because it will, even boiling sometimes, it'll stick together, and we don't want it to be stuck together. So we're gonna go ahead, it's not quite ready yet. This burner is kind of slow. It takes it a little while, but it's doing good, it's looking good. Go ahead, let it cook a little bit longer. And well, we're gonna get our cauliflower going now. And I do want to point out, you want to start out with an oven-proof skillet, okay? Because you don't want to get all this going, because what we're preparing now is going to go into the oven. So you don't want to have to take what you've been doing and put it into a casserole dish. So if you start out with a oven-proof skillet, then it works out perfectly, okay? Because you just, when it gets to the point where it's time to go in the oven, then that's what you do. You just put it right on in the oven. So make sure now, most oven-proof skillets are up to 350, and this temperature is 375. So be careful with what skillet you put in there. You don't want to ruin it. You want some type of cast iron or stainless or a ceramic. So now I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the skillet. I'm going to let this kind of heat up a little bit before I add in our cauliflower. And a good way to tell when your olive oil is good and heated is it will get a little shimmer to it. And when it gets that shimmer to it, that is telling you it's ready. So we're going to let that get a little warmer, and we're going to add this cauliflower and just let it cook kind of slow, because we want it to be tender, but we also want it to brown a little bit. That browning is what's going to give it that delightful bite that I was talking about. I think our olive oil is definitely shimmering, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to add in, you can hear that little sizzle, we're going to add in our cauliflower, and we're going to go ahead, remember every layer needs a seasoning, so we're going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Grab a spoon here. Okay, we're going to give that a stir. Now I'm going to just kind of let this sit here for a little while, because like I said, I want it to get a little, a little brown, and I want it to get tender. So we're going to let that just kind of hang out for a little bit. Okay, the pasta was ready, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to drain it into my colander. Make sure all of it comes out. You don't want to leave any of it in there. Woo, that is hot. Be careful, don't burn your fingers. Now what we're going to do is we are going to let this just sit here and hang out for a while we go back to finishing the recipe. Okay, the pasta is just hanging out over there doing its thing, but the cauliflower has cooked long enough. It's starting to get a little bit of brown on it. So what we're going to do is the next step, we're going to go ahead and add in our parsley. We're going to add in our rosemary. So we're going to just sprinkle that. And you talk about smelling. Oh my gosh, when I get this rosemary in here and I add that garlic, woo-wee, it is going to smell delicious in here. All right, I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of crushed red pepper flakes. Now, we like heat, okay? So, I might throw in a tad bit more than that, but we like heat. And always make sure when you are using the crushed red pepper flakes, squeeze them together, rub them together in your finger, and let those oils release, because that flavor is going to be better and that heat will be a little bit better. And now, I've got my trusty garlic press, and I'm going to go ahead and it calls for 2 garlic cloves, but I put 4 because they're really small. So we're going to press the garlic right into the skillet. Let me do the other 2. I love that. It's so easy to get that out. You don't have to peel it or anything. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. I was hungry before I ever started cooking. Now smelling this, I don't know if I can make it. Okay, let's give it a good stir. Oh, and also, I added a little bit of water to this. It was kind of getting really dry on me, and I didn't want to add any more oil, so I added just a tad bit of water, which is fine. You don't want to add too much, but a little is okay. Oh, wow, this smells so good. I'm going to leave it alone because I do want it to continue to brown and get tender. So I'm just going to let it sit here for a little bit and let it do its thing. All right, we are ready to add all of the goodness right here in this glass measuring cup. This is heavy cream. okay? So if you'll notice, you can see how some of the cauliflower has brown places on it. That's exactly what you're looking for. And also there's some brown bits in that skillet, okay, where some of the cauliflower has stuck and the pepper flakes are in there and the garlic. So all of that is such goodness, and we're gonna use this cream to lift that up off of there. Here goes the goodness. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh, that right there, I don't know why, it just makes me so happy. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Okay, now let's give it a stir very carefully. And what we want to do is we just want to let this simmer because we don't want our cream to curdle. So we just want to let this simmer, and we're going to let it simmer for about 10 minutes. That's going to give it time to soften up this cauliflower a little bit more and to thicken up a little bit. Also, don't forget, what do? Got to season it. Let's add a little bit of salt since we put the cream in, and we'll add a little bit of pepper. Give it another quick little stir, and we are going to just let this continue to simmer away. I have moved the skillet over here closer to the food processor because this is the next step. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this cauliflower mixture that we've been working on, and we're going to put it into our blender, food processor, whatever it is that you have. I have a Ninja. I love my Ninja. It does so many different things. And this skillet is way too heavy for me, and this stuff is really hot. So I'm just going to take a big old scoop here, a soup ladle, and I am going to just scoot it or put it in my blender like this. You can do whichever way works best for you, but I will say please be very, very careful because this is very hot, and you do not want to have this splash out on you. But we're going to transfer this, whoops, just through a little bit down the side. You know, it's not me if I don't make a mess. You know, if you don't know yet, my nickname is Messy Missy. So my husband calls me Missy, for those of you who don't know that. But it's not a good day in the kitchen if I don't make some kind of a mess. So now I probably gonna have to tilt the skillet a little bit to be able to get all of this delicious cream sauce. We do not want to leave any of that in the skillet, okay? Let's get all of that out. We're gonna add that in there. See all those little bits of the cauliflower? All of that is such goodness. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna be brave here. I'm going to pick the skillet up, and I'm going to pour this juice into the mixer. Because I do not want to lose any of that.
Woo, that is really heavy.
Got my workout today. Now, I got all that in there. What we're going to do now is I have some mascarpone cheese. And I'm going to put, this is like a cup in this container, and we want about a half a cup. So I'm just going to, you know, eyeball it. I'm going to add a half a cup of this cheese, and this right here is what's going to make this velvet. This cheese right here. You know what? I really don't. Yeah, just a little bit more than half. Okay, we got that in there. I'm going to put the lid on here. And I do want to point out that anytime you have hot liquid in your blender, okay, you want to be very careful because it is hot. A lot of times it causes it to expand. So you want to put a towel over it just in case, because it has been known to expand up and even spray out of the top a little bit sometimes. I don't think this is really full enough, but again, just don't want to take any chances. So cover it up with the towel, and we've got our cheese in there, and we are going to, I'm sorry y'all, but I have to get this off. That is just like, oh my goodness sakes. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna just blend this up until it's really, really smooth. Okay, I'm gonna undo it, and I'm going to wipe down the sides a little bit. Scrape down the sides, because I see a hunk of cheese over here on this side that I want to get down in there. Okay, just put it back on there, close it down, and I think we're safe. We saw that. So we're gonna turn it on. We're ready for the next step. We're gonna take this delicious velvety sauce that we just made. We're gonna take it, we're gonna pour it right back into our skillet. We're gonna take our sauce. Oh my gosh, look at this deliciousness. Creamy, thick, wow. You think I could just maybe take a little sip of this? I'm kidding. I probably would do it though. Okay, we want every bit of this out of here. Okay, I'm gonna put this back in here for now. Move my skillet back over here. Now we have our pasta that's just been sitting over there, waiting patiently for its time to shine. Well, the time is here. We're gonna take our pasta and we're gonna add our pasta back into this garlic sauce. Okay. Have that in there. Now we're gonna get this good and coated. Look at that. Oh my goodness gracious. Woo! See, that's why you don't want to do too many noodles, because you want that ratio to be right between the sauce and the noodles. We want everything good and coated. We're getting close to the end here, so we're going to take the rest of our 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're going to put that in our skillet. We're going to let that, get to where it's shimmering again, so we know that it's good for our onion. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and chop up this onion. I've already peeled it, you can see, just to kind of save a little bit of time. And I'm going to chop it up here and throw it in that skillet. We want to get all of that onion, so we'll turn it all around. Okay, now our olive oil is really good and heated. We're going to add this onion in there. Got our onion in there. Add a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, we are going to let this just cook slow for about probably 10 minutes, a good 10 minutes, because what we want to do is we don't want to just saute these. We want these to caramelize a little bit. We want them to cook long enough until those sugars are drawn out of that onion and it actually starts to caramelize. So that's our goal. So that's what we're going to do. I've got my burner on about medium high, and I'm going to get the seasoning. I said I never can cook without a couple going over the side. But we're going to stir the seasoning up a little bit, and then I'm just going to leave these alone. Watch them really close, but it's probably going to take about 10 or 12 minutes. Okay, our onions are perfect. We've got them good and caramelized, and so now what we're going to do, we're going to turn this heat off, and we are going to add our onions to our pasta and cheese mixture that we have over here. Okay, now let me scoot this over a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Look at those onions, aren't they beautiful? Oh my goodness. So we've added our onions. I'm going to go ahead and I I actually have some mozzarella cheese here that has been grated up. Now, I will tell you this. This was really not the cheese that I wanted to use for this recipe. I wanted to use Gruyere cheese, but where I live, couldn't find any. Actually, I even had Kyle stop at a few places on his way home from work and still couldn't find any. So anyways, we're gonna just stick with a good mozzarella because it's a really good, easy melting cheese. So I added that in there. I'm gonna mix this up good. And last time, we're going to season well and always make sure that you taste it before you cook it, okay? Because you want to make sure you have just the right amount of seasoning, salt and pepper, because it's better to go ahead and add it before you cook it than to try to do it, you know, afterwards. So we're gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. Let's smooth everything down here. We have some panko crumbs that we're going to put on top of this. Now, this is key to this recipe, because what this is going to do is this is going to turn golden brown, and it's also going to be light and crunchy. And crunch is exactly the texture that you want to add to this pasta, because the pasta is kind of soft. The cauliflower we've done into a cream sauce, and so these panko crumbs are icing on the cake. They're really going to make this recipe mouth-watering. Now, I had my oven good and preheated. I'm gonna put this in the oven and it's gonna cook for about, I would say anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes. Everyone's oven is different, so be sure and watch it really close. And what you are looking for is you want your panko crumbs to get nice and brown and toasty, and you want to see the sauce, the cream sauce, bubbling all around the edges, okay? That's what you're looking for. All of this has already been cooked, so we're not needing it to get done. We just want it to heat through and through. I don't know about you, but I'm starving. Okay, we're almost to the end. The last thing that I'm gonna do while it's finishing up, the ziti is finishing up in the oven. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna chop up some chives, because we want to have a little bit of some fresh green, some fresh herbs to put on the top of that. It's kind of a, woo, I've got chives going everywhere. But anyways, this is just gonna kind of add a little bit of color to the top of the dish, and you know, chives are just a mild onion flavor, so it will be a very good topping for our dish. And also, I was gonna go ahead and tell you that what I'm gonna do is we'll probably eat like Caesar salad with ours, but you could do a Caesar salad, you could do just a regular side salad, you could do asparagus, green beans, you know, any kind of green or really any kind of vegetable. If you wanna put something on the side with it, it's perfectly fine to just eat it just like it is. Or maybe you're kind of missing the meat a little bit. You could always add some chicken, some roasted chicken to it. So there's lots of different ways that you could serve this. I think it's about ready to come out of the oven. Oh, yes. Wow, wow, wow. Look how beautiful. That is so pretty. Oh, and it smells so good. I told you you're gonna wanna make this recipe. This is really a perfect recipe when you're cooking for two, because as you can see, there's plenty for us to eat tonight, and then I'm gonna get like a whole nother meal out of this. I can just let this cool really well, stick it in the refrigerator, and I'll have another meal for probably maybe this weekend when I don't really feel like cooking. I can just pop this in the oven and reheat it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and scoop some on our plates because we're both starving. That's one thing about Kyle is I can fix pasta just about any way you can think of, and he is gonna love it. He loves pasta. I love pasta too, but my genes don't love it. Look at that. Woo, look at that steam coming up. Okay, now we're gonna take and we're gonna garnish it with some fresh chives. We're gonna let it cool just a tad, and then we are gonna dig in. Now this is the really fun part, right babe?
Yes.
The tasting.
Definitely.
This is so good.
It's so good. That panko, is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It has a crunch.
Yes.
But that sauce is
so creamy. That's what I said. That panko is like the key ingredient.
And I love pasta.
And it's a little spicy from the crushed red pepper flakes.
Yeah. I love it.
So,
ready?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, y'all, we're just having fun. We're eating this. We're so hungry.
You know what?
I'm sorry I had food in my mouth, but
you know what?
What?
I wish they had a bite.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to make this.
Yes.
And then call me. I'll help you eat it.
Oh gosh, y'all. Thank you so much for watching this video. You know what? I hope you learned something today that you didn't know before. And also, I would love to hear about some of your recipes or some of your cooking experiences. You can always put them in the comments, okay? So we're gonna eat this up because we're starving, and Lord bless you.
Lord bless you.